But there were groups. There was the medieval equivalent of a coach party, wasn't it? There were groups that would travel.
I'm not entirely sure, and I suspect yes.
Yeah.
A lot would have been
because you had medallions
not
and
on
stuff.
your own.
Is that right?
Yeah, but there would have been some that would have always, right through the years, have been people that would have just travelled on their own, and they'd have made their way across to the Clean Peninsula, which is, for those of you that aren't familiar with Wales, the very top long peninsula at the north of Wales, and I'm told that it was counted, the pilgrimage was more counted once they started at a place called Clunogfawr, which is on the north coast, and the North Wales Pilgrim's Way, which you might have seen on the BBC programmes, goes through Clunogfawr, and they actually stopped on the BBC programme and chatted to a lovely lady who I met last week called Rosie, who looks after a group of the churches along that chunk of the route. And they would have travelled along, got to Aberdaron with the hope of getting out to here to Bardsey.
So was this a final destination, or was this part of the route that you travelled?
Well, it was sort of, this was the final destination. And it sort of remains the same now. There's two pilgrimage routes, the North Wales Pilgrim's Way, and then there's another route that's just, we're just finishing working on it, that comes up from West Wales, and where the first pilgrimage route goes along the north coast of the Clean Peninsula, the Cadfan Way goes along the southern coast of the Clean Peninsula. Both routes end up at Aberdaron.
So are they ancient routes, or because there's been a resurgence in interest in pilgrimages? So are these ancient routes that have always been there, or have they been put together in more recent times, sort of picking up the significant points?
Yes to that.
Okay.
They are exactly that. They're a mix of the two.
Right.
So they're based around the ancient routes, and certainly I know a little bit more anyway, about the North Wales Pilgrim's Way at the moment, and it picks up all ancient sites, holy wells,
right,
and would have picked up some of those ancient routes, especially on the last chunk along the peninsula to get to Aberdaron. And the Cadfan Way, after St Cadfan, who founded the monastery here on the island, that again picks up ancient routes. I suspect there will be some other divergence now, not massively, but with the intention of fairly much following the routes. But
and churches pick up the hospitality on the way, and your role is part of that. Was yours a bit more keeping it all together? How does your role work?
Yeah, so I've been employed as Pilgrim Priest, which I think is the first role of its kind. It's certainly not existed in this location before.
Sounds like a great job, actually. You don't know yet,
I don't know yet.
Yeah.
No. So the church managed to get special funding for the role just because they saw the amount of people turning up in Aberdaron to the beautiful church at the back of the beach called St Helens, which is where I'll be basing a lot of the ministry, and just realised they needed somebody in that vicinity to welcome pilgrims that are travelling, and some come by car, many will come on foot from both directions, but just to welcome them, offer hospitality, look after them, say prayers with them, listen to them, sit with them if they need somebody to sit with them. A lot of people will travel those long routes with something, perhaps with a heavy heart, with something to lay down. Often with bereavements, or in memory of someone, or I know I did a pilgrimage once because somebody I worked with was going to do this particular route, and we often talked about it, and he died before he ever got to do that, and so I felt compelled not only sort of to finish it for him, which sounds a bit strange, but in my mind,
I understand
I sort of felt that I needed to do it for him. We talked about it so much. We often talked about, walking gear, where we were going up the hills, and it was in Yorkshire at the time. And partly I wanted to finish it for him, and partly I think I needed to work out my own grief that I'd lost a very special spiritual companion in life that I wasn't ever going to be able to have some of the deep conversations with again. So I walked it for different reasons, and I think the same thing, and the BBC programme, really interestingly, the same thing happened with the celebrities. There were several on that were holding something that was difficult, and throughout the time that they walked that route, they were able to start to have the headspace to process it.
Yeah.
And by the time they turn up in Aberdaron at St Hohen's, it feels like I really genuinely think the church were right to sort of see this need, that some, yes, will come on out to Barty, some won't have the time to, if the boat's not running, if the tides aren't in favour, if the weather's not up to it.
Yeah.
You can't always get out, and so there needs to be something where people can have somebody to just look after them at that final place that they reach at Aberdaron. And what that looks like exactly, because I get to make this role up from brand new, so it's amazing, and develop other resources and maybe retreats and accompany people on maybe local pilgrimage routes for people that aren't able to walk more distance.
Yeah. I suppose it will vary, because I mean that's one of the things I find interesting is the reason, and there's going to be different reasons why people go on pilgrimage, but it feels like it's partly a human response that I've got to do something, and with faith often it's not about, it's the cliche, it's about being, isn't it? Yes. But you can say that all you like, but I still feel I've got to do something to help me be. Yeah. And so it's that outward expression of that inner journey and turmoil, isn't it? And that it's almost like expressing, I guess for people, I would think that it would be hard times that would drive a person more to pilgrimage than good times. I guess you could do it as a thank you, but often it's that all this pain I have inside me, I've got to get it out, and that the struggle and the pain of a journey helps you feel that pain that you can't quite manifest. I might be talking about.
It is, and you're right, that's a really interesting distinction, isn't it? That, between doing and being, and maybe
we have to be both. We can't.
I think on a pilgrimage, you're right. You're doing both of those. You're physically doing, because in our human forms, sometimes physically doing something actually helps, but we're allowing ourselves to spiritually be as we're doing that, because we're hopefully letting a lot of the other stuff of life just stay at home for a bit, our technology to just stay in the rucksack for when we really need it, and immerse ourselves in it. So, is it a sacrament?
And we're not a sacramental tradition. It's not a sacrament.
Pilgrimage.
It's not, is it? But the sacraments of that, aren't they? The body and the blood of Christ.
Yes.
Here's the physical. So I love communion. I love bread and wine. Because it's acting out, and you take the body of Christ into you absorb it into your very molecules, don't you? But it's, as a Baptist, obviously, it's just the symbolism. But symbolism is
There's
more.
There's a whole other conversation there. That'd be another one.
Yes, we'll have burnings later. But that's why it is, on one level it's just a symbol, but on the other level a symbol is a mystical, powerful thing that changes your life. So you can't just say it's just a picture on a wall, because it changed my life, and communion changes me,
us,
and especially communion, because it's with others. It changes us, doesn't it?
It does. And we've just had communion this morning, haven't we? We've been, to turn up and find that there were, how many of you, 5 or 6 in your party? 5 of you ministers?
5 Baptist ministers.
5 Baptist ministers. When I've come to chaplain on the island for the week, it was just very funny. But, I really do think it was ordained by God, and just, it's been such a blessing, hopefully to all of us, but it's been a real blessing to me. But we've just shared from this book, haven't we? Some amazing liturgy. I call it liturgy.
Yeah, we call it.
Some words.
We're just producing a book.
Absolutely stunning. That's just really, really suited to. It's been designed by a lady I haven't met yet, but I think I probably will do in my new role, Janet Fletcher, and if you ever see this, Janet, thank you enormously, because these prayers that we've been following this week and the communion that we've just had this morning from this book, it's just all written to embrace this amazing landscape here. So yeah, sorry to go slightly off track.
No, I like that because it roots your spiritual expressions into the locality. Where I live is very, very, very different.
Very different from here.
But again, we use liturgies, which is it's increasingly common amongst Baptists. But we use words that root, because often this kind of liturgy is very natural world and mountains and hills and skies. Which is good, and we use that too, but ours is also roads and aeroplanes and tower blocks. And I think you root your faith into your location, because it's the danger is sometimes people see faith as an escape, and it isn't actually. Faith puts you into the real, really where you are really now.
Yeah,
and whether that's somewhere like this, and I think I would say the city is equally fantastic, but in a different way. I love the city. But here it's awesome. But actually, when you're traveling around the city or at night, if you're coming in, a route that the city is awesome too.
Yeah.
But there's this idea that country good, city bad, and that's
no, and it's not. And I've ministered in East London for a chunk of time, and some very. Not exactly cities, but very, very large towns.
Yeah.
And it is very, very different and has its own beauty, doesn't it?
Yeah. Places like this have something that a city can't give, which the same city does as well. I think there's space here, and you have to stop.
Yeah.
And you have to. Look.
And I think
you have to walk everywhere.
You have to walk everywhere. What's funny is if you just want to ask one of your neighbours along the road something, you have to actually put your boots on and go out the door and walk along, which is
you have to think about everything, don't you?
Absolutely everything.
Because at home you just it's all there. You just do it.
Yeah.
Pick up a phone, go get on a bus, whatever.
Switch
Here it's like I'm going to the toilet. I need a quarter of an hour to get dressed.
Get my boots on.
Find a torch. Everything, which is very mindful, I guess, isn't it?
It is mindful. Yeah. It is, and there's a challenge in there, isn't there? That how many times did Jesus just withdraw to quiet, lonely, or high places? And you're like, well, we're talking about the Son of God. We're talking God, and yet even so, he had to
get away.
Yeah. To get even closer to knowledge and communion with the Father. So there's like that challenge. How do we then find that when we're not somewhere like this?
Yeah.
This almost is the desert space, the mountain space. Apart from we've got some neighbours down the road.
But it's easy to get away from them. At home, so you can't get away
from them. But when we're all back in our locations, even me, however was it, a couple of miles back to the mainland where I'm now living, we'll still all need to be able to try and find that space that we can carve out. You almost can't wait till you can have a week to come on to somewhere like Bardsey Island. So I think the challenge is taking that back. And for me, if Aberdaron is, and it has been in this first couple of weeks, very, very busy place, and we're not even into high season.
Yeah.
And so many people visiting, coming into the church, I will also still need to find quiet places to withdraw to, which is really interesting.
Because ironically, your job is help people find space.
Yes, yeah.
How do you make that space?
I've got to make that space. And so many people are drawn to Aberdaron. Even last week I was sitting there's a wonderful area that you can sit and get a beer at the back of the hotel, sort of alongside the beach, and talking to various people in that area there, and people who just like, I just had to come, I saw it on the programme, I had to come. And then it's like, well, how can you facilitate for them what it is, what sparked, because most people have watched it and just gone, oh, that was lovely, enjoyed that, or you know, that person annoyed me, or that was amazing, or didn't they get on well? But for some people, it's they've had to get in the car, they've had to turn up here, and I'm already encountering that within the week and a half I've been there. Yeah. So what I want to do is create some sort of online presence and ministries. Some of it might just be what we'd call in Wales, like paned y sgwrs, which is like a cuppa and a chat, where people who are planning on visiting or coming to Aberdaron or to Enlli, Bardsey, can start to just chat and have a cuppa online with me and with other people that are due to visit before they come. And once they've left here, what I'm picking up already is people feel quite impoverished, going back away again, like what have I left? And although there's a lesson in what we take with us and the fact that Jesus is with us everywhere, that actually I'll do a continuing online ministry so that people can continue the rhythm and hook in maybe to the rhythm of prayers that I'll start going in.
You should do some online prayers, you know.
Some online? I'll have to have a chat.
There's a church just down the road that does that.
Does that?
Mondays and Wednesdays,
Yeah. Oh, here we are. We've got somebody knocking
someone
at the door.
Hang on a moment.